Hello, everyone. Welcome to Homework Help for Lesson 36. Let's go ahead and get started. Number one, what is the ratio of cities with more than 20 inches to cities with less than 20 inches? So we have to count how many cities there are that have more than 20 inches of rain. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that, when we're talking about ratios, that number has to be represented first. So again, that's going to be more. And then we're going to compare that to the number of cities that are less. So you have to count how many have less. And then if you're able to simplify, make sure that you simplify the ratio. Number two, what is the average rainfall for all 6 cities? So to find the average, you just have to add up all 6 of our numbers and then divide that sum by 6. Now, since we have decimals, we want to make sure that we, bring the decimal place down so that it's all lined up. And then from there, we just add, carry over as necessary. And once we have our sum, divide by 6. Number 3, Darren reads 35 pages each night. At this rate, how many pages can he read in a week? So if he's reading 35 every day or every night, and we're talking about a week, which is 7 days, then to find the amount of pages that he can read in a week, we simply take 35 and multiply it by 7. Number 4, Shannon swam 100 meters in 56.24 seconds. Rick swam 100 meters in 59.48 seconds. Rick took how many seconds longer to swim than Shannon? So what we're looking at here is just the seconds because they both swam the same amount of time. And since we want to know how many seconds longer it took him, it's just a matter of subtracting the two. Keep in mind that when we're subtracting, we want to put the larger value in the minuend, so on top. Number 5, in the following statement, change the percent to a simplified fraction, then diagram the statement and answer the questions. 40%, and we know percentages are just out of 100, of the 30 players had never played rugby. How many had never played rugby? And then what was the ratio of those who had played rugby to those who had not played rugby? So first things first, we want to simplify this as we mentioned. So it's going to be 4/10, and we can simplify that further to become 2/5. And so all that means is that we are going to have a diagram that is 5 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And so if we have a total of 30, each of these encompasses, 30 divided by 5, which is 6 in each. So 6 per group. Now, 2/5 had never played rugby. So this would be our 2/5 here. So the total number of players who had never played rugby would be the total from the 2 boxes here. What was the ratio of those who had played rugby to those who had not? So we need to find how many had played rugby. That's going to be your first number. You want to total them up. Compared to the ones who had not played rugby, you want to total them up here. And then make sure that you simplify it if you can once you find the sum of everything. 6, A to B is 4 centimeters. AC is 9.5 centimeters. Oh, that's right. A to C would be the entire thing. Describe how to find BC in millimeters. Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to turn both of these into millimeters. And we do that by multiplying it by 10 or moving the decimal space to the right once. That will give us the measurements in millimeters. And then to find the length of BC, we have to subtract AC, which is 95, and AB, which is 40. And keep in mind that the units will be millimeters. The length of the rectangle, so the length is 5 centimeters greater than the width. So if the width is 8, the length is just L or W plus 5. So we have 8 plus 5, which is 13. So now we can find the answer to our questions. What is the area of the rectangle? which we find by multiplying the length and the width. And to find the perimeter, we just add up the lengths of all four sides and make sure that we keep our units in mind. For number 8, estimate the perimeter of this triangle by rounding each measurement to the nearest 100 millimeters before adding. So you want to round it to the 100 millimeters place. So these are already in millimeters, which means that we just need to round it to the 100th place in each of the measurements. So we identify the 100th place, make sure that we round each of those, and then we add up the estimates. Number 9, round this number 6.857142 to 3 decimal places. So this is the thousands place. And then for B, it's asking us to estimate the product. We have to round each factor to the nearest whole number. So make sure you round it to the nearest whole number. You want to look at the number on the right. So since this is bigger than 5, we're going to round up. Since this is bigger than 5, we're going to round this up. Remember that we're going to have whole numbers to multiply. 10, use digits to write each number. We have 12 million, which we know is going to be a whole number in the millions place. And then we have 12 millions. Now, million has 6 zeros. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's going to have a decimal at the beginning. Remember that we line up the digits given to us at the back end, and everything in between is going to be a 0. Number 11, in the probability experiment, you toss a coin and then you roll a number cube, make a tree diagram, and show the sample space. So before we get to the rest of the problem, let's go ahead and work on the tree diagram. So if we're going to toss a coin, we have a couple outcomes, right? We can get heads or we can get tails. Now, based off of that, if we roll a number cube, with the number cube, we have 6 different possibilities that can occur. So I want to make sure that we make a note of all of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And then we do something similar for the tails. This is not going to be the nicest tree diagram, but we work with what we got. Or in this case, what I made. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, that's showing the sample space. Now, using this, we find the probability of getting heads and an even numbers.
Mama,
so we have a total of 12 possible outcomes.
Mama.
Right? Because our sample space shows that we have 12 outcomes. And then heads and an even number comes 1, 2, 3 times. You can get heads 2, heads 4, heads 6. So that's a total of 3. And then we just have to simplify that fraction. Find the length of the segment. We look at this. We want to do it in millimeters. So every 10 is actually going to count as 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to be more than 4. But it's going to be a decimal value. And then millimeters, we're going to count by 10, 10, 20, 30, 40. So it's going to be more than 40, but with a ones instead of a tenths, as it was in 12. 13, which decimal number names the point marked M on this number line? Well, it's between 13.5 and 13.6. So, we know that it's going to have 13.5 as its start. And we add our terminal zeros so that we can count 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, so on and so forth. So, make sure that you count those out to find your point marked M. 14a, write 85% as a simplified fraction. We know percentages are out of 100, so we just place it out of 100 and simplify. Now, for the prime factorization, 144 and 600, if we use a factor tree, we could. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of use some factors that I already know. So like for 144, I know it's, we have 12 and 12, which breaks down to 4 and 3. And so the 4 can be broken down into 2 times 2 and 2 times 2. So we have there 2, 2, 2, and so we have 4 sets of 2s, and then we have 3, 3. We have 3 and 3. Now for 600, I know I have 100 times 6, which gives us 2 and 3. And then for 100, we can have 10 and 10, which gives us 5, 2, and 5 times 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 2. We have a 3, and then we have 2 5. So doing that, we just go ahead and cancel out any common factors in the numerator and denominator, and then multiply whatever's left. Number 15, Alba worked for 6 hours and 45 minutes at $10.90 an hour. What numbers could she use to estimate how much she earned? Estimate the amount she earned, and then state whether we think the exact amount is more or less. So if we're going to estimate here, first we have to round the amount of hours she worked and the number of hours she worked into whole numbers. So 6 hours, 45 minutes, that's close to about 7 hours. And $10.90 is about $11 an hour. So when we multiply those, our estimate is $77. The issue is that, is this more or less than what we think she earned? Since we had to round up in each case, our estimate is going to be an overestimate of the amount of money that she actually earned. So our estimate is more, a little more, not that much more, but a little bit more than what she actually earned. For number 16, in this figure, which angle is a right angle? So a right angle is, 90 degrees. And then when we name it, just make sure that the vertex where the angle is located in the middle. And then the two other points can be in any order, as long as they are the 2 points that extend out to form the right angle. If they're not the ones that form the right angle, then they should not be included. Acute angle, we all know, is less than 90 degrees. Again, it starts at, it's located at point P. But then you have to keep in mind that you want to use, and again, the order doesn't matter here. You want to use the legs or the points that create the acute angle. And finally, for the obtuse angle, you're actually looking at an angle that is larger than 90 degrees. So that's going to be both of those combined. Again, the P vertex is still in the middle. But again, you want to take care to use the actual rays that create the obtuse angle. 17, 8y equals 12 squared. So the first thing you have to do is simplify 12 squared, which is 12 times 12, not 12 times 2. So that's 144. And then you have 8y equals 144. Use your inverse operation to solve for y. For 18, similar story. They're being divided. The dividend is the numerator. So you use the inverse operation to solve for w. The opposite of division is multiplication. So you want to multiply both sides by the denominator. Estimate, and then perform the calculation. So we just got to round first just to get a check on what we think the answer is going to be. 4.27 rounds to 4, 16 and 3/10 rounds to 16. 16 plus 4 is 10, 20, 20 plus 10 is 30. So your answer should be around 30. When you line them up, make sure that you have the exact amount of decimal digits for each number, and you want to make sure that your decimals are lined up. 20, 4.2 rounds to 4, 42 hundredths rounds to 0. So your answer should be in the 4 range, around 4. We're going to have the terminal 0 here, terminal 0 there, and then when you subtract, make sure that your decimals are lined up. Simplify. 3 1/2, 1 1/3, 2 1/4. So the first thing you got to do is you actually got to find the common denominator. So we have 2, 3, and then 4 is 2 times 2. So the largest group of 2's is 2, 2, and just 1, 3. So when you multiply all of these together, you end up with 12. So you have to change all these fractions to be out of 12. So 1/2, make it out of 12. Make sure you multiply both numerator and denominator by the same factor. 1/3, make it out of 12. And then 1/4, also make that out of 12.
Blah, blah, blah.
Once you've done that, just replace your original fractions with the converted fractions.
Bobby, I want to do it.
And then find the sum, simplify if you can.
I want to do it.
Hold on, Jubilee. So now for number 22, we have 3.5 times 1 1/3 multiplied by 2 1/4. Since we're multiplying, we actually just need to turn these into improper fractions. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So that's 7. So that's 7 over 2. And we're going to multiply it by, this mixed number turned into an improper fraction by 2 1/4 turned into an improper fraction. Remember that when we turn mixed numbers to improper fractions, the denominator stays the same. What changes is the numerator. And the numerator should be larger than the denominators since we had a mixed number to begin with. For 23, 3 and 5, 6 minus 2/3 minus 1/2. So similar story. We're gonna have to find the common denominator, which is 6. So 2/3 needs to be a fraction out of 6. 1/2 needs to be a fraction out of 6. And what you're gonna actually have to do first is once you find your fractions, so 4, 6, and 2, 6, you don't want to simplify them yet. That's going to be 2, 6. So what we have is 3 and 5, 6, 5, 6 minus 2, 6. So you just subtract and simplify if you can. 24, similar story. Common denominator, you have to find it. So 3 and 2/3 is going to be a fraction out of 12. And then since we multiply by 4, that's going to be 8/12. But now you notice that the first fraction is smaller than the second fraction, so we're going to have to regroup. So we're going to have to borrow from the 8, which will become a 7, and then we're going to add 12 to the 5 to make it 17. So we have 7 and 17/12 minus 3 and 8/12. And now we can actually subtract fractions with fractions, whole numbers with whole numbers, and then simplify if you can. For 25, similar to what we did for 21, or 22 rather, both of these have to be improper fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11 over 4. And then divided by 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So we have 9. So we have 9 over 2. And then what you want to do is change the multiplication and then reciprocate. And then multiply and simplify, or simplify and multiply. 26, again, change, reciprocate. We don't need to find any common denominators here. So it's going to be 2 over 1, which gives us 4/3. And so instead of 5, we're going to make it over 1. And we want to find a common denominator, which is 3. So you have 15/3 minus 4/3. And then you're going to subtract and then simplify if you can. For 27, 1.4 divided by 8, we set it up in long division. Since we're going to need terminal zeros, just go ahead and start adding those. And then keep adding those as necessary. So it goes in, a decimal goes above itself. That's once. That's going to be 60. So we are going to have to end up adding another terminal zero. So just make sure you keep adding terminal zeros until you're done. Since we're dividing by an even number that's not a multiple of 3, you should be able to add terminal zeros until you are out. All right. 28. So 2 times 3 times 4. We multiply like we normally would. So it's going to be 24. But then we count the number of digits after the decimals, which is a total of 3. So we're going to move our decimal to the right 3 times, and any blank spaces will be filled by zeros. For 29, 12.25 times 10, we move the decimal to the right once. But when we're dividing by a power of 10, we move the decimal to the left once for every 0 in the number that we're dividing or multiplying by. For number 30, on the coordinate plane, draw a square that has an area of 25 units squared. Then write the coordinates of the vertices of the square on your paper. So I'll use the coordinate plane that I posted for this problem. And then, once you graph it, the point is that it has to be a square. So it should all be, inside of it, you should have 25 total squares. And it has to be a square, so all the sides have to be the same length. Once you figure out, what your points are, just write down those points um, in your shown work. Or you could take a picture or a screenshot of the coordinate plane that you used and with the points labeled and then just upload it. All right. Well, this has been your homework help for today. For extra credit, it is 12th of November. So why don't we go with this? Why don't we go with a famous persons born on November 12th? So any birthdays that you can find, famous people, celebrities, historical figures, whatever. Anybody born on November 12th, that will be your extra credit. Just write their name down on the shown work. Don't forget to write your name and the date on your shown work and the lesson number. Hope you have a great day, and we will see you later.